Okay, so I got my jack there somewhat leveled up, stabilized at least, and then just two scrap pieces of wood, a little kickstand here, even nibbled out a little saddle with the chainsaw. So we'll just stick that. So we've got a project for the house that's coming up in quite a few months. Actually, spring, summer is when this project will actually get going. Um, but in preparation for that, I need to get the cleanest, the widest, and the most boards I can out of some white oak, a white oak log that I have here, in preparation for that project. So let me show you what I've got going on here. So we've had, over the last 7 days, about 2 inches of rain and a little over 2 inches of snow. The snow has melted, the rains come, the snow came, the rains came. It's currently above freezing right now, so everything is very gushy, very spongy. So that's why we're going to work on the mill today, so we can stay in the gravel, stay on compacted land, and not be in the woods and on my back roads tearing up a bunch of stuff. So I have this white oak log, 14 feet long, 16 inches on the small end in diameter, and actually just 16 3/4 on the other end. So it's pretty good shape. This is actually the second log. It's not the butt log. It's the second log off of a large white oak we cut down over a year ago. The butt log was used to make the boards for our utility trailer rebuild that we did last year. I'll link to the playlist here if you want to check that out. But this log's been laying here for a year. Been wanting to mill it up. Hasn't made it up the priority list, but today, bingo, it's on the list. So we need to fish it out and see what we're going to do with. So it's been such a long time since I've had this log, I moved this log around. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't any odd characteristics. It's got some old knots and some old branches. Again, being a second log, not the butt log, it's going to have some knots in play here. So we're going to not be able to avoid that too much. Just see how far it gets into the log itself. But I'm going to do multiple things now that are controversial and will probably aggravate people. I have a tendency to do that, evidently. First thing I'm going to do is cut this short. This is 14 feet long. I don't need a 14-foot long. It is a tragedy that it's only an inch smaller in diameter at the end of the length of 14, but I do not have the space in my barn to put a 14-foot boards in. So I don't need 14-foot boards. I need 12-foot boards. So we're going to cut 2 feet off of this. And not exactly 2 feet, we'll leave a little extra. Actually, I think we're going to go 11. I'm going to cut this big knot out. So the second thing I'm going to do that is extremely controversial, raises the ire of people on YouTube, has really aggravated a group of people, is I'm going to run my chainsaw. Evidently, if you guys have watched the video a month or two ago, or a month ago, where I had a pine tree hanging, and I got it down from hanging over my road, cut it up, that type of thing, I evidently really upset the YouTube chainsaw experts about my total disregard for safety, my safety, safety of the world, safety of the chainsaw, whatever it was. I don't even remember. But if you missed that opportunity to tell me how much of an idiot I am, I invite you, go back to that video. You can watch some of it and just jump right down in the comments. It's great. Just keep piling them on. We love it. No, in all seriousness, is what it is, man. And I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to do like I always do, pray to the Lord that I don't stick a saw in my face or my leg. I respect my chainsaw. I choose not to wear PPE at times. That's on me. That's totally on me. I don't encourage that. Wear PPE all the time. If you got to wear a suit of armor to make you feel comfortable running a chainsaw, then do so. But if you watch my videos and you see how I run a chainsaw and it causes you to go out and do something where you injure yourself or kill yourself, then that is not my intent. My intent is not to teach you how to do something. You learn on your own. If you run a chainsaw, then it's up to you to get the proper training. Don't go to YouTube for anybody to learn how to use a chainsaw. Go take a chainsaw training class. Whatever. Let's fire up the chainsaw, shall we? Rant over. So another reason for cutting this short, of course, is A, the length that I need, but B, is the pith. We're going to try to isolate the pith, the heart of the log when we cut on the mill, so make sure it doesn't show up in any of our wood, or as little of our wood as possible. But you can see there's another heart or branch, obviously another trunk, shoot off that was coming out of this tree way when it was very, very young and had a fork in it. That fork has since then grown over, but that creates another weak spot in the boards. So I could definitely see that, and that 2 more feet of wood, I could see that definitely showing up. So yeah, it is what it is. We're going to get out of it what we can. So I guess for the sake of continuity and following the story, I probably should explain what our project is without getting down a huge rabbit hole. My goodness. So if you've watched the channel since its inception, which not too many people have, 20 years ago we bought this land. I was in my mid-20s. Kelly and I both had really good careers. We did everything that we thought you were supposed to do at 20 in your 20s when you had a career, when you have a big career and all that. You build a big house, you go into massive debt, you do all that stuff because you're going to be working for 30, 40 years. You can pay all that stuff off. Well, unfortunately, now that I'm 47, I realize I really wish I hadn't done that. What that has to do with this is the fact that when I built that house, way more house than I should have built, I took a lot of that on myself and trying to, I don't know, it was ego probably, trying to do all that on my own. The thing that I've neglected to do is finish the trim work, the detailed trim work. So my lovely wife has been very, very gracious and understanding for the last 18 years. It's like, hey, can we get some trim finally? So that is something I've promised her that I will continue to work on that and get that completed. So that's what this white oak is going to end up being. It's going to be a lot of baseboard. It's going to be a lot of architectural molding around my huge windows. We have large windows in our great room. I really like a stain trim, I even like a natural. So this white oak will be natural. So the reason I want to take the time to isolate the heart or the pith of the tree is I don't want it in my boards because it makes it really unstable, makes it split, makes it warp, do all that type of stuff. It's already going to move on its own since wood's hygroscopic, but I want to isolate that pith to get it out of my boards. So what is the pith or what is the heart? Well, I know you can't see it in this black, but we're going to put a little red dot right there. So the heart is not necessarily the center of the tree because you could have a tree grow out asymmetrically. But you can see here, this is where the main cracks have started because they start at the heart in this situation when they're checking. In this scenario with this tree, it is pretty much centered. Where this tree grew, it wasn't on a steep slope. It didn't have something laying against it, so it had some competition, so it grew pretty fast and straight. But we're going to measure the height of this heart from the rails of our sawmill. We want a constant. That's why I have this straight edge here, so I can lay it down. Since I'm not right over top of a bunk, we just need a point of reference. So using this straight edge, obviously just tip it up here, put my tape on the bottom of it, and see that that heart is exactly 9.5 inches. So 9.5 inches from the top of my rail. So here on the small end, the opposite end of the log, we'll do the same thing. Again, visual aid for y'all. And what I'm looking for, of course, is the true heart, not that other branch that's coming off. So when I lay this down, so that is 8 7/8, so that's what, 5/8 lower. So not a huge deal, and could probably get around that, but for the sake of hopefully making this video interesting, I'll show you what we do. So let's use a graphic, an on-screen graphic here that hopefully helps explain this. I don't think it's too difficult to understand, but visuals help, right? So this log, the heart, the pith, drops a little bit on this end. So if you could draw a line straight through the heart and illustrate that, it would of course be tipped a little. The sawmill, of course, runs parallel to the rails. So the vector of the heart is not parallel to the vector of the rails or the saw blade. So basically just means if I kept milling out, at some point my blade is going to cross through the heart. As the blade goes lower, it's going to cross into the heart here first before it comes in there. So there could be two boards that have the heart somewhat in it, in portions of the board, and those two boards are going to be the least stable. What we want to do is we want to raise this end of the log enough that we have the line of the heart as parallel as possible with the line or vector of the saw blade. So as we go through and we mill our boards, then there's one board, hopefully, that'll have the heart, and then I'll show you how we actually cut it out. We turn it 90 degrees and cut it out, produce smaller boards, but it gets the heart out of there, and it eliminates it from being in other boards. So there are several different ways to take care of this situation, to raise this log. If and I'm going to do what the mill allows me to do. If I had a more expensive mill, a Norwood mill or a Wood-Mizer that had more features on it, some of them have toe boards, they have log jacks, these lifts that some are even hydraulic. You can just flip a switch and it'll raise the log end up the height that you want. The Red Tool House redneck way would be to just take the tractor, lift it up, wedge something under the bunk here and try to get it dialed in that way. But it would require lifting, lowering, because there's probably a knot or something here that's going to interfere with that, and the thickness of my wedge, all that, you'd have to figure all that out, how to drive it in, and that would just take a while. What I'm going to do is simply take advantage of a really neat tool that I have that I use when I used to have a street bike, motorcycle, and I still use it from time to time, is use my ATV or my bike jack. I'm going to put it under here, and we're going to raise the log with the jack. That way I can easily maneuver it with a couple foot pumps and put it exactly where I need to. Okay, so I got my jack there somewhat leveled up, stabilized at least, and then just 2 scrap pieces of wood, a little kickstand here, even nibbled out a little saddle with the chainsaw. So we'll just stick that on that base. That's what I like about this motorcycle jack, is it has those 2 arms that are super strong. A couple pumps there. 9 1/4. Nine and a half. So as you can see, the way that jack is set up, it does not interfere with the movement of the saw head carriage. So it'll just obviously pass right by. And we really only have to do this twice to cut this entire log. So we'll make our first cut, and the flat portion of the cant that's created with our first cut should be parallel to the heart. So then we flip it 180 degrees, cut the other side without having to jack it up, and we should have 3 parallel lines, the heart and the 2 flat sides. Then we turn it 90 degrees, jack it up, and do the same thing. So we just have to level the heart on the 2 dimensions, the width and the height, or however you want to look at it, the 2 different dimensions there, and then we can just start sawing, because at that point we should have it trued and parallel. All right, so that's our first 2 cuts. So these 3 lines should be parallel to one another. Let's put our money where our mouth is and see. So that is right at 6 inches at the heart. We'll go measure the bottom cut of the other side as well. And hey, looky there, 6 inches. How fortuitous is that? 6 inches from the top as well. So I wasn't necessarily trying to put the pith right in the center of the log of these 2 cuts, 6 inches on the top, 6 inches on the bottom. It just so happened that I wanted to cut this arbitrarily at a 12-inch height, so it just came out that way. I didn't measure before, but so now those lines are parallel, and if I was to just square this up and start slicing my boards off of it, then I would have the heart isolated into one board. If I didn't mess with the other angle, then the heart could obviously travel left or right. Not a huge deal, but we're going to go ahead and turn it and get that leveled up as well, so we can have a very truly isolated heart in the center of one board. 9.5. 8 3/4. Okay, so we're down to our our halfway cut. You can see our red dot there, and starting to see some heart show up in this portion of the cant. That's where I ran out of gas and had to start up again, so that's why you got the big black blade there, blade mark. But you can see that that heart starting to show up. So, of course, in a tree, it's not like it's a perfect straight line, but we've got it isolated pretty well. So I could either come down below this and cut this board and then flip this on its side and cut the heart out of it and have 2 nice quarter sawn pieces that would look really sharp. Or I could I'm debating myself, turn the whole thing 90 degrees and start cutting some 6-inch wide material. And then when I get down, then I just have a board that has that little portion that I could cut out. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. when you see me start the mill back up, then you'll know. All right, I apologize for not turning the equipment off. I want to keep it running. Hopefully you can hear what I'm saying here. Looking at, decided to go ahead and turn the cant sideways, get some 6-inch wide boards, and you can see there the red dot. That's our pith, our heart, and of course you can see the split that's going with it. And it did okay. See, we got a good bit of it in that one board. It's just a little tiny bit. In fact, it just shows up right there, a little bit of the heart. So that worked out pretty well. So I'm going to take this board, stand it on its edge, make my next pass, and it'll cut the heart out completely. Then we can just chuck that away. You notice there's a pine board I've stuck there. That's just to give me rick boards or sticker boards for when we put it up here in the barn, so it'll have some spacers to air it out. Okay, so I have to show you this. The quarter sawn in this white oak is just gorgeous. And obviously I could have done a lot more milling to try to, different type of milling, different angles and things, turning the boards different ways to try to get more quarter sawn, but I wasn't going to mess with it. Look at that center board, has the most. Actually, the second board, that board over there has it too. But it's called medullary rayfleck. And it's just there's these flecks that only show up in wood that is quarter sawn. And if you want to know what quarter sawn is, I'm not going to go into it. I've done a video years ago. That was inadequate, but there's plenty of other ones on YouTube that really describe it well. So what's really neat with that process, when it works the way it's supposed to, then you literally have this much wasted wood with the heart or the pith of the log in it. So this piece of wood, I may use it for stickers, brick boards, but it really has no other value. But it's kind of neat when it comes together that you can isolate it that way. Now, for those of my eagle-eye viewers that watch, the fact that strategy worked well on that log. Now that was a poor log to do because being a second log, it wasn't a butt log, being the second log, you may have seen how many knots it had in it, and branches that at some point had been grown over and not visible on the outside of the log. So that thing had a whole bunch of knots in it. Probably grew up some of its life in a cleared off area, and then as things grew back over, it had to compete, so it covered a lot of that up. A lot of those branches died off and then it was healed over. So those really revealed themselves. So the irony is taking the time to isolate the heart to cut it out so you get stable boards when all the boards have big knots in them anyway. So the irony is not lost on me there. So that process works well. It just doesn't work so well with that specific log. Now the next trick is take all of that, get it up there in the loft with some stickers in between it so it can air dry, and we can hopefully use this. And this tree's been down for a year, air drying in the barn for 6 months, possibly will be in the teens with its moisture content. Now with trim, I can get away with that. If I was building furniture, then I would definitely want less than 10%. Try to get that 8% is the magic number I've always worked with. So we'll see. Obviously, we're not going to wait around and finish the video when that happens. But we'll put it in the barn with the rest of the wood we have up there, help it dry out. I guess you didn't hear me say raise the box scraper. All right, so with the help of my crew, we got all that wood from there up here. All ricked, stickered, whatever you want to call it, to dry in the barn. And then right here, this is some red oak that was milled 3 or 4 months ago. And then right over here is some cherry that was milled this spring. So it's going to be really nice. It should be getting close to being ready. So hopefully the loft can withstand all this weight and it doesn't flatten my tractor. Charlie's putting my tractor up for me. Thank you. Can see my hoose from here. Can you grab the chainsaw off the tractor and put it in the workshop, please? So is it boss approved? Hey, grab my bucket up there if you would, please. Yeah, just drop it on the... You can do it. Just throw your leg over. So I've, just a quick side note, I think it's been quite a few months ago now, talked about my Rock Rooster boots. That's tough to do in selfie mode. Work boots that I've used with, have a safety toe, not a steel toe, but a safety toe. I've been very comfortable. Kelly got a pair of hiking boots from Rock Rooster. And what's your thoughts on them so far?
I really like them. I've worn them for a few months now, and they've been comfortable. I've hiked in them, worked around the farm in them, and they've been very comfortable. Now, I'm not used to wearing the lace-up ones, which I do really like them because they give my ankle a lot of support, which I need that. And they've been, so far they've been cozy warm. We haven't had the frigid temperatures yet, but that's a big plus for me, is if they're going to be cozy in the wintertime. So
yeah. So when Rock Rooster sent these to us, we told them, hey, yeah, we'll try them out. We'll just wear them, and if we like them, we'll talk about them. If we don't, then we won't talk about them. No. Then yeah, obviously, if we like them, then we'll share the information about them. So they are comfortable boots. I've been happy with mine. Mine are filthy dirty because obviously I wear them pretty much every day, but mine are the lace up as well. Been holding up really well. Definitely more comfortable than my Georgia boots that I had, the last pair that I had. So happy with that.
yeah, I'm very happy with them.
Cool. So I'll, if you're interested, I'll share a link below where you can check them out.